We know him as the Son of God, a title that resonates with power, divinity, and celestial authority. It is the name that echoes from the heavens, proclaimed by angels and confessed by demons. So why, when walking among us, did Jesus refer to himself in another way? Why in the Gospels does he choose nearly 80 times a much more mysterious and seemingly humble title, the Son of Man? What did he know that we still desperately need to discover? This is not a question of semantics, but the gateway to one of the greatest mysteries of redemption. Within this enigmatic name, he hid the key to his mission, the nature of his power, and the eternal destiny of all humanity. The choice seems like a divine paradox. While Son of God points to heaven, to his origin in eternity, and his equality with the Father, Son of Man seems to bind us to the earth, to our fragility, to our mortality. It sounds like an admission of limitation, not a declaration of power. However, we are about to discover that this apparent humility is, in fact, a cloak for unimaginable glory. He was not diminishing his divinity, but revealing it in a way so profound and strategic that it confused his enemies, strengthened his disciples, and built an indestructible bridge between the Creator and his fallen creation. This title is the missing link that connects the throne of the universe to the dust of our lives. Make no mistake, this was not a casual choice. Every time Jesus called himself the Son of Man, he was not simply identifying with humanity. He was activating an ancient prophecy, claiming a cosmic role, and declaring his authority in a way that only the most attentive hearts could comprehend. It was a veiled assertion of sovereignty that, at the same time, connected him to our suffering. This name was both a crown of glory and a crown of thorns. It was the signature of a king who chose to become a servant, the verdict of a judge who chose to become the sacrifice, and the promise of a God who became flesh to make us his children. Imagine a secret whispered through the centuries, a celestial vision recorded by a prophet in exile, awaiting the exact moment in history to be revealed. This title was not born on the shores of the Sea of Galilee, but in the throne room of the universe itself. In a vision granted to the prophet Daniel, Jesus, by using this name, was not inventing a new concept, but unrolling an ancient scroll, showing the world that he was the fulfillment of a cosmic promise. He was the celestial figure Daniel saw approaching the Ancient of Days to receive dominion, glory, and a kingdom that would never end, a kingdom of which we are called to be a part. Therefore, the journey we begin now is not just a theological study, it is an expedition into the heart of God's plan for our salvation. To understand why Jesus called himself the Son of Man is to understand how heaven invaded earth, how eternity wore the clothes of time, and how the holiness of God could dwell in a body of flesh and bone. This truth redefines everything. It transforms our understanding of who Jesus is, and consequently, of who we are in him. His story, contained in this title, reveals the secret of our own glorification, showing that he became like us so that we could become like him. Think about this. The title Son of God reveals the immensity of the ocean of his divinity, vast and unfathomable. But the title Son of Man is the bridge of light that crosses that ocean, connecting the unreachable shore of eternity to our fragile human shore. Without this bridge, we would remain forever separated, looking at a distant and fearful God. But Jesus, by declaring himself the Son of Man, became the way, the safe passage over the abyss of sin and death. He did not just show us the way to God, he became the way itself, in his person, in his sacrifice, and in his glorious name. The implications of this choice are overwhelming. Understanding this mystery is the difference between following a good teacher and worshipping the King of the universe. It is what separates a religion from a redemptive relationship. Jesus was giving us a key, not only to understand his identity, but to unlock our own future. By identifying as the Son of Man, he was claiming the right to be our representative, our substitute, and our judge. He was telling us that the one who will one day judge the world is the same one who walked in our sandals, felt our pains, and cried our tears. Prepare yourself, for we are about to unveil what was hidden behind this name. We will journey from the dusty hills of Judea to the celestial throne room. We will witness a cosmic coronation foreseen for centuries and see how it was fulfilled in the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus of Nazareth. By the end of this journey, the title Son of Man will no longer be an enigma, but a hymn of worship on your lips. You will discover why this name, which sounds so earthly, is in fact the most heavenly name of all, the name that seals our forgiveness, guarantees our hope, and defines our eternal destiny. To understand the magnitude of this title, we must leave behind the shores of the Sea of Galilee and the dusty streets of Jerusalem. We are invited to travel outside of time, into a dimension where human history is but a chapter in a cosmic saga. Our journey takes us to a celestial vision, a glimpse into the control room of the universe, granted to a prophet named Daniel. There, in the heart of a pagan empire, God opened the curtains of eternity to reveal the source of all authority and the final destiny of power. What Daniel witnessed was not just a prophecy, it was the coronation charter of our King, written before he was even born in Bethlehem, a scene that defines the true identity of the Son of Man. Imagine the scene. Daniel, a faithful servant of God, is taken in spirit to a place that transcends physical reality. He stands before the heavenly court, a supreme tribunal where the destinies of nations are decreed and the course of history is sealed. There are no thrones of gold and marble here, but something far more primal and terrifying. He sees the Ancient of Days, a figure who embodies eternity itself, he who is, who was, and who is to come. His presence is the origin of all that exists, the unchanging source from which all reality flows. Before him, the greatest empires of earth, with all their arrogance and military might, are like dust in the wind, awaiting his final judgment. The description of the Ancient of Days fills us with overwhelming reverence. His clothing is white as the purest snow, symbolizing absolute and untouched holiness. The hair of his head is like pure wool, representing a wisdom that precedes creation itself. His throne is not of cold metal, but a whirlwind of living flames, and its wheels are like burning fire, indicating a power that is both creative and consuming, always in motion, always sovereign. This is the image of Almighty God, the supreme judge of the universe, before whom no secret can be hidden and no authority can stand on its own. It is in this setting of unfathomable majesty that our celestial protagonist will appear. The atmosphere of this heavenly throne room is charged with power and holiness. A river of fire flows incessantly from his presence, a torrent of judgment and purification. Thousands upon thousands of celestial beings serve him, and millions upon millions stand before him, awaiting his commands. Every angel, every archangel, every heavenly creature exists in a state of continuous worship and service. This is not a static kingdom. It is the dynamic center of all existence, the point from which decrees that shape the rise and fall of kings, empires, and even galaxies emanate. It is the epicenter of divine sovereignty, the place where true authority is irrevocably and eternally legitimized. And then, amidst this indescribable glory, something happens. Daniel watches the clouds of heaven, which move not by the whim of the wind, but as a celestial chariot. And upon them, coming toward the flaming throne, a figure appears. The Bible describes him as one like a son of man. The image is shocking in its contrast. He has the appearance of a human being, the form of the creature, yet he travels on the clouds, a mode of transport reserved in the scriptures exclusively for divinity. Who is this being who can unite in himself the form of humanity and the prerogative of God? He is not an angel nor a mere creature. He is unique, a category unto himself. He approaches not with the hesitation of a subject, but with the confidence of an heir. He is led into the presence of the Ancient of Days. This moment is the apex of Daniel's vision and the central point of the entire story of redemption. This is not a request or a plea. It is a divinely ordained transfer of power, an act of cosmic investiture that was planned before the foundation of the world. The Ancient of Days, the source of all authority, is about to delegate his rule to this mysterious and glorious figure. The destiny of all creation hangs in this solemn instant, in this transaction that takes place in the throne room of the universe. And then the decree is proclaimed. To the Son of Man is given dominion, glory, and a kingdom. Let us ponder the weight of these words. Dominion means sovereign and universal authority over everything that exists, both in heaven and on earth. Glory refers to the splendor, honor, and weight of God's own presence, which now rests upon him. And the kingdom is the manifestation of his rule, an empire that will be established not by military conquest, but by redemption and judgment. This is the authority that Jesus would later claim to have, the authority to forgive sins, to heal the sick, to calm storms, and to lay down his life and take it up again. This kingdom, conferred upon the Son of Man, possesses characteristics that distinguish it from all earthly empires. Daniel's vision declares that all peoples, nations, and men of every language will serve him. Its reach is global, transcending all cultural, ethnic, and geographical barriers. Furthermore, his dominion is an everlasting dominion, which shall not pass away. It will not suffer decay, corruption, or replacement, and his kingdom is one that shall never be destroyed. Babylon, Persia, Greece, Rome, all the great empires Daniel knew would turn to dust, but the kingdom of the Son of Man would stand forever. This is the promise of an unshakable government of justice and peace. Now connect this cosmic vision to Jesus of Nazareth. When he walked through Galilee and called himself the Son of Man, he was not just referring to his human nature. He was boldly identifying himself as the protagonist of this celestial vision. He was saying to the priests, the scribes, and his own disciples, "I am the one Daniel saw. I am the one who received all authority from the Ancient of Days. The eternal kingdom you so eagerly await will not come through a political revolution, but through me." This claim was so grand that it was considered blasphemy, for he was claiming for himself a position of divine sovereignty. This is the hidden power behind the title. Son of Man was a celestial code, a prophetic password. To the crowd, it sounded like a term of solidarity, someone who understood their struggles. But for those who knew the scriptures, it was a breathtaking declaration of power. Jesus was revealing that although he stood there in flesh and blood, eating, drinking, and feeling weary, his true identity was anchored in this heavenly scene. He was the crowned king of the universe, operating in enemy territory under the guise of human frailty. His humility was not a sign of weakness, but a divine strategy to establish his eternal kingdom. Therefore, the construction of our narrative world expands beyond the visible horizon. We are not just telling the story of a good man who lived 2,000 years ago. We are revealing the story of the King of the cosmos, whose right to rule was sealed in eternity before it was demonstrated in time. Every miracle he performed was a small invasion of his eternal kingdom into our fallen reality. Every word of teaching was a fragment of the constitution of his government. His journey to the cross was not a tragic defeat, but the strategic act by which he disarmed the powers of darkness and purchased citizenship for us in his kingdom. So when we again hear Jesus call himself the Son of Man, let our minds not be limited to the image of a Galilean carpenter. May we see through the veil of flesh and behold the glorified King, the one who approaches the Ancient of Days in majesty. May we understand that this title speaks not of his earthly origin, but of his heavenly coronation. He is not just one of us. He is our crowned representative, the perfect man who received eternal dominion so that we could reign with him. This is the cosmic stage upon which the drama of our salvation unfolds, and the Son of Man is its hero and king. Now that we have set the cosmic stage, let us dive into the sacred words that form the foundation of this revelation. Our first stop is the source, the prophetic vision of Daniel, chapter 7, verses 13 and 14. It is here that the title Son of Man is born, not as a designation of weakness, but as an emblem of heavenly sovereignty. Daniel writes, "I saw in the night visions, and behold, with the clouds of heaven there came one like a son of man." This is not a poetic detail. It is a profound theological statement. In the scriptures, only God comes on the clouds. This figure, with a human appearance, moves with the majesty reserved solely for the Creator, signaling a mysterious union between the divine and the human. The vision continues with the coronation. "And he came to the Ancient of Days and was presented before him. And to him was given dominion and glory and a kingdom." This is the moment of universal investiture. Dominion here means absolute and unquestionable authority over all creation. Glory is the visible weight of God's presence, and the kingdom is the sphere of his rule, an empire of justice and peace. The prophecy specifies that this kingdom is eternal, unshakable, and universal, encompassing all peoples, nations, and languages. Therefore, Daniel's Son of Man is not a victim of fate, but the preordained heir of all existence, the King of Kings. This celestial image of power and authority makes Jesus' choice of title even more intriguing. To understand the impact of his words, we need to contrast Daniel's vision with the common use of the term Son of Man in the Old Testament. In Psalm 8, verse 4, the psalmist, marveling at the greatness of creation, asks God, "What is man that you are mindful of him, and the Son of Man that you care for him?" In this context, Son of Man is a poetic Hebrew expression that simply means human being, emphasizing our fragility, our smallness, and our status as creatures made from dust. Herein lies the divine genius of Jesus' choice. The term Son of Man existed on two completely different frequencies. On one, it spoke of dust, mortality, and human dependence as seen in Psalm 8. On the other, it spoke of glory, sovereignty, and eternal dominion as seen in Daniel 7. They were two concepts that seemed mutually exclusive, one representing the creature and the other the divine king. By appropriating this title, Jesus was claiming to be the impossible intersection between these two extremes. He was declaring himself to be, at the same time, fully human and absolutely divine. We see this duality in action in his ministry. In Luke chapter 5, Jesus is before a paralyzed man. Instead of healing him immediately, he declares, "Man, your sins are forgiven you." The teachers of the law react with outrage, thinking to themselves, "Who is this who speaks blasphemies? Who can forgive sins but God alone?" They were theologically correct in their premise. Forgiveness of sins is an exclusively divine prerogative, an act that belongs only to the judge of all the earth, the Ancient of Days. They just couldn't see that he was standing right there in front of them. It is then that Jesus reveals the authority contained in his title. He says, according to verse 24, "But that you may know that the Son of Man has authority on earth to forgive sins." He directly connects the title, Son of Man, to the power to forgive, a power that belongs to God. He was in effect saying, "I am the figure from Daniel 7, and the authority given to me in the heavenly throne room is now operating here in this dusty room in Capernaum." The healing of the paralytic that follows is not the main miracle. It is the visible evidence that authenticates his invisible authority to purify the human soul. This name, therefore, is not only a title of identity, but also a declaration of his redemptive mission. In Mark 10, verse 45, Jesus redefines the messianic expectations of his disciples who were hoping for a conquering king. He tells them, "For even the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many." This statement is shocking. The figure from Daniel 7, whom all nations were to serve, declares that his purpose is to serve and to die. He takes the image of the sovereign king and fuses it with the image of the suffering servant prophesied by Isaiah. The word ransom is crucial. It evokes the image of a price paid to free a slave. The King of the universe, the Son of Man, came to pay with his own blood the price of our liberation from the slavery of sin and death. We see then that this title encapsulates the entire plan of the gospel. It contains his sovereignty to forgive, Luke 5, his humanity to identify with us, Psalm 8, and his sacrificial mission to redeem us, Mark 10. It is a name that spans from the throne of eternity to the wooden cross on Calvary. The tension reaches its peak at his trial. Before the high priest Caiaphas in the Sanhedrin, Jesus is put under oath and confronted with the direct question, "Are you the Christ, the Son of the Blessed?" Jesus' answer, recorded in Matthew 26, verse 64, is the most explicit declaration he ever made. He says, "You have said so, but I tell you from now on you will see the Son of Man seated at the right hand of power and coming on the clouds of heaven." In that moment, he tears the veil and openly claims the identity of Daniel's vision. This was the confession that sealed his death sentence. By quoting Daniel 7, he was not just declaring himself the Messiah, he was declaring himself the heavenly judge of his own judges. He was telling them that the power dynamic was inverted. The one they saw as a helpless prisoner was, in reality, the King of the universe, who would one day return in glory to judge the world. To the Sanhedrin, this was the ultimate blasphemy. To us, it is the ultimate revelation of who he is, the perfect man and the sovereign God, our Savior and our King. Therefore, the biblical exposition shows us a complete and coherent picture. The title Son of Man is not a secondary term, but Jesus' preferred self-designation because it contains the totality of his person and work. He is the descendant of Adam, who perfectly represents humanity, and at the same time is the divine figure who descends from heaven to establish an eternal kingdom. He is the humble servant who washes the disciples' feet and the sovereign king to whom every knee will bow. This name is the meeting point of our need and his infinite glory. Understanding these texts is fundamental to our faith. They show us that Jesus was not just an enlightened teacher or a powerful prophet. He was and is the embodiment of a cosmic promise. His life on earth was the visible manifestation of a celestial authority conferred upon him before the foundation of the world. Every act, every word, was rooted in this glorious identity. The prophecy of Daniel 7:13-14 is the master key that unlocks all other doors. Without it, the title Son of Man remains an enigma. With it, it becomes the most potent declaration of Christ's divinity and mission. It is the assertion that the one who became fully human is also the one who holds all power in heaven and on earth. The contrast with Psalm 8:4 teaches us about the depth of the incarnation. The eternal King did not just assume a human appearance. He embraced our fragility, our condition as a Son of Man, to redeem us from within. He emptied himself to fill us, humbled himself to exalt us. The authority demonstrated in Luke 5:24 is our hope for forgiveness. Because the Son of Man has this authority, we can approach him with confidence, knowing that he has the power not only to heal our bodies, but to cleanse our souls and reconcile us to God. The sacrificial mission of Mark 10:45 is the heart of the gospel. The price of our ransom was the life of the King of the universe. He did not save us with a distant decree, but with an intimate and personal sacrifice. He served unto death so that we might live eternally. And the culminating confession in Matthew 26:64 is our guarantee of his return and final victory. The same Son of Man who was condemned by men now sits at the right hand of power, interceding for us and preparing to return, not as a suffering servant, but as the glorious King and Judge of all. We see, therefore, that the key biblical texts intertwine to form a rich and detailed tapestry. They reveal that Jesus chose the title Son of Man not to hide his divinity, but to reveal it in a strategic and multifaceted way, connecting his celestial identity to his earthly mission. Each of these verses is a window into the soul of Christ, showing us his authority, his humility, his sacrifice, and his coming glory. They invite us to look beyond the historical Jesus and to worship the cosmic Christ, the eternal King who became man for us. As we meditate on these passages, we are confronted with an inescapable truth. The carpenter from Galilee was, in fact, the crowned King of the universe. His life was no accident, but the meticulous fulfillment of a divine plan drawn up in eternity. And this plan is contained in all its glory in the mysterious title, the Son of Man. At the heart of every great narrative lies a conflict, a tension between two opposing forces. And at the center of our story, the dramatic tension resides in the very duality of the title, Son of Man. This was not a peaceful name. It was a declaration of spiritual war, an assertion that provoked a violent collision between limited human perception and cosmic divine revelation. For each group that heard Jesus use this name, it meant something different, creating a battlefield of interpretations where the eternal destiny of souls was at stake. The genius of Christ was to choose a title that functioned like a double-edged sword, separating faith from unbelief. For the religious leaders of Israel, the Pharisees, Sadducees, and teachers of the law, Jesus' self-designation as the Son of Man was the most intolerable of blasphemies. They were the guardians of the Scriptures. They knew Daniel's vision by heart. They knew perfectly well that the figure who came on the clouds of heaven to receive an eternal kingdom was no mere mortal. He was a divine, celestial being. Therefore, when this carpenter from Galilee, with no formal rabbinic training, appropriated this glorious title, he was, in their eyes, committing the ultimate sin. He was making himself equal to God. Their reaction was not just theological, it was visceral. It represented an existential threat to their authority and the entire religious system they governed. If he was the Son of Man from Daniel, then he had direct authority from the Ancient of Days, an authority that superseded that of the Sanhedrin, the temple, and the tradition of the elders. He was not just a heretic. He was a cosmic revolutionary claiming the throne they believed they administered on God's behalf. Every time he spoke those words, it was like a spark falling on a powder keg, increasing the fury that would eventually nail him to the cross. On the other hand, for the crowds who followed him, the title generated a different tension, that of confusion and wavering hope. For them, Son of Man was a familiar term, evoking their own humanity, their daily struggle and their fragility. There was an appeal in this solidarity. However, they also sensed the messianic weight in his words. They were desperate for a liberator, a new David who would free them from the oppressive yoke of Rome. The title, Son of Man, fed this hope, but in an enigmatic way they couldn't fully decipher. He didn't speak like other rebels. He spoke with an authority that seemed to come from another world. The conflict for the masses was the collision between their political expectations and the spiritual nature of Jesus' kingdom. They wanted a king who would wield an iron sword, but the Son of Man spoke of turning the other cheek and giving his life as a ransom for many. They expected a conqueror who would exalt them as a nation, but he ate with sinners and tax collectors, offering a kingdom to the broken and marginalized. This dissonance created a constant tension. Was he the Messiah they expected, or a different kind of Messiah, one they weren't sure they wanted? The title, with its ambiguity, held them captive in this drama of uncertainty. Even for the inner circle, his own disciples, the conflict was real and daily. They lived at the epicenter of this paradox. On one hand, they saw the Son of Man in his tangible humanity. They saw him sleep from exhaustion in a boat, feel hunger in the desert, weep at a friend's tomb. He was their teacher, their companion, someone with whom they shared bread and the dust of the road. This familiarity made his divinity almost impenetrable. How could the man who was there, weary beside them, be the celestial king of Daniel's vision? Their struggle was to reconcile the Jesus they knew with the Christ they believed in. They believed he was the Son of God, but when he called himself the Son of Man, it forced them to confront the depth of his incarnation. Their conflict was the attempt to merge the image of the suffering servant with that of the triumphant king. They, like the crowds, longed for an earthly kingdom for thrones at his right and his left. Jesus' insistence on the title Son of Man, especially when linking it to suffering and death, was a constant blow to their ambitions and a source of deep confusion and inner conflict. But the drama was not limited to the human sphere. The choice of this title echoed in the spiritual realm, declaring a cosmic conflict. Satan, the adversary, had deceived and defeated the first Son of Man, Adam, in a garden. Through that fall, he usurped dominion over creation, becoming the prince of this world. For millennia, humanity, frail and sinful, lived under this spiritual tyranny. Now a new Son of Man had arrived on the scene, not one born in sin, but the perfect man come from heaven. The arrival of the Son of Man was a direct challenge to the usurper's throne. Every time Jesus used this title, it was a declaration that the rightful heir of creation was present to reclaim what was his. The conflict between Jesus and the demonic forces was, in essence, the battle between the true Son of Man and the enemy who subjugated the first. The temptations in the desert were the first direct confrontation, where the Son of Man conquered where Adam failed. Every exorcism was a retaking of territory, a demonstration that Satan's dominion was coming to an end. The dramatic conflict, therefore, unfolds on multiple levels simultaneously. On the theological level, it is blasphemy against orthodoxy. On the political level, it is a threat to the status quo. On the popular level, it is mystery versus expectation. On the personal level, for the disciples, it is humanity versus divinity. And on the cosmic level, it is the rightful king versus the usurper. All these threads of tension are intertwined and tied to this single title, the Son of Man. This tension is what makes the gospel narrative so powerful. Jesus did not come with a clarity that eliminated the need for faith. On the contrary, he came in a way that demanded a decision. They say, title Son of Man was a question disguised as a statement. It forced every listener to look beyond appearances and decide who he really was. It was a divine veil, hiding his blinding glory just enough so that men could draw near, yet transparent enough for hungry hearts to see the divinity shining through. The collision was inevitable. The legalistic interpretations of the Pharisees collided with the sovereign authority of the heavenly king. The nationalistic hopes of the crowds collided with the sacrificial mission of the suffering servant. The limited understanding of the disciples collided with the paradoxical identity of the God-man. It was a perfect storm of conflicts, and Jesus stood calmly at its center, steering history toward its divinely ordained climax. This contrast between human perception and divine reality is the essence of the drama. The world saw a Son of Man, a mere mortal, but heaven saw the Son of Man, the crowned King of the universe. The conflict arises from the gap between what the eyes could see and what faith was called to believe. The journey of following Jesus was the journey of crossing that gap. The tension builds with every miracle, every sermon, every confrontation. With each use of the title Son of Man, the stakes get higher. For his enemies, the resolution becomes more urgent. He must be silenced. For his followers, the question becomes more desperate. Who is he really? The narrative drives us to a breaking point where ambiguity can no longer hold. Thus, the dramatic conflict is not just an element of the story, it is God's very strategy. The tension created by the title Son of Man was the crucible in which true faith was forged and unbelief was exposed. It was the stage perfectly set for the greatest plot twist in history, where the Son of Man, in his moment of greatest apparent weakness, would reveal his greatest glory and power. And so, we arrive at the epicenter of all history, the moment when all threads of conflict, prophecy and mystery converge at a single overwhelming point of impact: the cross. There, suspended between heaven and earth, the Son of Man appears utterly defeated. His enemies mock, his disciples scatter, and the title he claimed sounds like a cruel irony. Where is the king from Daniel 7 now? Where is the one who would come on the clouds with power and great glory? Human perception sees only a Son of Man in his purest fragility, a broken and dying man. But what was happening there was not a defeat. It was the climax of the divine strategy, the deepest revelation hidden behind this glorious name. The great plot twist, the revelation that shakes the foundations of heaven and earth, is this: by calling himself Son of Man, Jesus was not diminishing his divinity but exalting it in the only way that could save us. He was not simply identifying with us, he was becoming our official representative, our cosmic champion. The title Son of God declares his divine origin, but Son of Man declares his redemptive vocation. He was assuming the position of a new head for the human race, a second Adam, and on the cross, he was fighting the battle that the first Adam lost, reversing the curse at the very place of its greatest manifestation. This is the key that unlocks the entire mystery. The first Son of Man, Adam, was created in perfection, in a garden, with the task of exercising dominion on God's behalf. But he fell, plunging all of humanity into darkness, sin, and separation. Millennia later, the last Son of Man, Jesus, the perfect man, enters the scene. He overcomes temptation in the wilderness, where Adam failed in abundance. He bleeds in agony in a garden, Gethsemane, submitting his will to the Father's, and he triumphs on a cross, turning the symbol of the curse into an emblem of redemption. He didn't just come to forgive us, he came to remake humanity from within himself. By becoming the Son of Man, Jesus fulfilled the original purpose for which humanity was created. He became the perfect representative we could never be. His sinless life was our obedience. His sacrificial death was our punishment. His glorious resurrection was our victory over death. He did not act just for us. He acted as us. This title, therefore, is his legal and covenantal credential to represent us before the throne of the Ancient of Days. He became the perfect man so that we, imperfect men and women, could be reconciled to a perfect God. Justice and mercy kissed in this glorious name. Here, the duality that caused so much conflict finds its perfect synthesis. The title Son of Man is not an oscillation between his humanity and his divinity. It is their fusion. In him, the frailty of the Son of Man from Psalm 8 meets the sovereignty of the Son of Man from Daniel 7, he is the only being in existence who can, with total integrity, claim both sides of the equation. He is the heavenly King who knows the weight of our tears. He is the eternal Judge who bears the scars of our rescue. This name is the living bridge between the dust and the throne, the proof that God did not love us from a distance. Now we understand why this title was strategically more powerful for his earthly mission than Son of God. If he had presented himself primarily as the Son of God, the distance between him and us would have remained immense. But by presenting himself as the Son of Man, he built a bridge. He did not call us to climb up to him. He came down to meet us. He put on the armor of our frailty to fight a cosmic battle on our behalf. The name Son of Man was the supreme act of solidarity, the incarnation of the God who refuses to leave his children as orphans in a fallen universe. The cross, therefore, was not the end of the Son of Man, but his coronation. It was there that he disarmed the principalities and powers. It was there that he gave his life as a ransom for many, fulfilling the mission he himself declared, and the resurrection 3 days later was the seal of the Ancient of Days upon his work. It was the irrefutable proof that this Son of Man was not just a martyr, but the victorious king over sin and death. The empty tomb is the pedestal upon which his eternal kingdom was inaugurated on earth. The king had conquered death from the inside out. In this title is contained the whole gospel. It encompasses his sinless humanity, which qualified him to be our substitute. It encompasses his sacrificial mission, which paid the price of our redemption. And it encompasses his future glory as eternal king and judge, which secures our destiny. The Son of Man who came to serve is the same Son of Man who will return to reign. The one who was judged by men will one day judge all nations with justice. The humility of his first coming is the guarantee of the majesty of his second coming. The ultimate revelation is, therefore, breathtakingly beautiful. Jesus became the Son of Man so that the sons of men could become sons and daughters of God. He embraced our earthly identity so that we could share his heavenly one. He took upon himself our mortality so that we could be clothed in his immortality. The divine exchange, the great and sublime business of salvation, is encapsulated in this name. He didn't just come to show us the way, he came to become our way, our representative, our new beginning. The veil of mystery has been torn, the riddle is solved. The title, Son of Man, was not a disguise for his divinity, but the deepest manifestation of it. It was the glory of God veiled in flesh, operating at the deepest level of our need. It was love in action, a love so vast that it traded a throne of glory for a wooden cross, all to bring us home. The King of the universe made himself the representative of humanity to adopt us into his royal family. Therefore, when we look at Jesus, the Son of Man, we no longer see a paradox, but a perfection. We see the God who is holy enough to judge sin, yet humble enough to become sin. For us, we see the man who is fragile enough to die, yet powerful enough to defeat death. He is God's answer to the human condition, the divine solution to our most desperate dilemma. He is indeed the perfect bridge, the one mediator between God and men. May this truth resonate in our hearts with power and reverence. The name Jesus used most for himself is the story of our salvation in 3 words. It is a name of sacrifice, a name of authority, and a name of eternal victory. It is the name that reminds us that the one who reigns over the cosmos is the same one who understands our pain. He is our King and our kinsman redeemer, the Lion of Judah and the Lamb of God, the Son of God, and, to our eternal gratitude, the Son of Man. This entire cosmic journey, from the throne of the Ancient of Days to the cross at Calvary, is not merely a story to marvel at. It is designed to land with the weight of glory on the soil of our daily existence. The truth that Jesus is the Son of Man is not an abstract theological concept. It is the most practical and powerful answer to our deepest struggles. It redefines how we see ourselves, how we approach God, and how we face the storms of life. This title isn't just about who he is, it's about who we become because of him, revealing the personal and present relevance of this eternal truth for every breath we take. Think of your moments of greatest fragility, those hours when you feel inadequate, misunderstood, and utterly alone. The revelation that Jesus is the Son of Man assures us that we have a high priest who can sympathize with our weaknesses, as the book of Hebrews affirms. He is not a distant God, aloof to our pain. He felt the weariness that drains the bones, the sorrow that breaks the heart, the anguish of betrayal and the sting of temptation. When you cry out in the midst of your distress, your cry does not reach an indifferent sovereign, but a brother who intimately knows the map of your scars and the weight of your tears. Because of him, our standing before God changes radically. We no longer approach in fear, like orphans trying to earn the affection of a harsh father, or as defendants before a merciless judge. We approach with the confidence of children, because we are represented by the perfect Son of Man. When the voice of accusation whispers that you are not good enough, that your mistakes disqualify you forever, you can silence it with this unshakable truth: my representative is perfect. Christ's sinless life is credited to our account. His obedience becomes our righteousness. We are accepted not because of who we are, but because of who he is on our behalf. At the same time, this brother who understands us is the glorified King who holds all authority in heaven and on earth. This duality is our greatest source of practical hope. The one who understands our struggle is the one who has the power to intervene in it. The authority of the Son of Man did not remain in the heavenly throne room. It is available to us here and now. He has authority to forgive our most shameful sins, to break the patterns of behavior that enslave us, to bring peace to our anxious minds, and to guarantee us a secure and glorious future in his eternal kingdom, a kingdom that has already begun in our hearts. Knowing that the Son of Man, the King of the universe, came not to be served but to serve, radically transforms our purpose in life. We live in a culture that teaches us to seek power, position, and self-service as measures of success. But our King showed us that true greatness is found in humble, sacrificial service. We are called to follow in his footsteps, to use our gifts, time, and resources, not to build our own little sandcastles, but to extend his kingdom of love and justice, serving others as he served us. Our value is not in what we accumulate, but in what, out of love, we give away. Jesus' identity as the Son of Man, who will one day return on the clouds to judge the world, frees us from the paralyzing fear of the future and the terror of death. Our final judge is also our Savior. The one who will sit on the great white throne is the same one who stretched out his wounded hands to welcome us, the same one who wept for our pain and bore our punishment upon himself. This truth removes the dread of judgment and replaces it with hope-filled expectation. We need not fear the end of history, because we know the one who writes it and who has already guaranteed us, by his blood, a place in his final chapter of glory. This truth has the power to change lives, to bring hope to the hopeless and strength to the weary. If you feel the power of this practical application in your heart, like this video so the algorithm will show it to more people who need to know they are not alone in their battles. And don't keep this revelation to yourself. Share this video right now with at least one person you know is going through a struggle. Be the bridge that brings this hope to them, just as Christ, the Son of Man, is the perfect bridge for each of us. Ultimately, the truth of the Son of Man grants us a completely new and unshakable identity. We are no longer defined by our failures, our fears, our insecurities, or the opinions of others. We are defined by our heavenly representative. We are those for whom the King of the universe became a man. We are those for whom he lived a perfect life, died a sacrificial death, and rose again in power. We are citizens of an eternal kingdom, beloved children of the Most High God, co-heirs with Christ. Living in this truth is not just a comfort. It is the most revolutionary source of power available to the human soul, empowering us to live with courage, purpose, and a hope that cannot be shaken. We have reached the end of our journey, but the beginning of a decision that echoes through eternity. We have traveled from the celestial throne room to the dusty streets of Galilee, from Daniel's vision to the brutality of the cross. We have seen the veil torn and the mystery of the Son of Man revealed in all his sacrificial and sovereign glory. Now, this cosmic truth no longer hovers distantly in the sky, but descends and kneels before the door of your heart. The question that hangs in the air is no longer who is the Son of Man, but who will he be for you? This is not a matter of knowledge, but of acknowledgement. It's not about theology, but about surrender. The revelation we have unveiled is overwhelmingly beautiful. The King of the universe, the one to whom was given all dominion, glory, and power, chose to become one of us. He clothed himself in our frailty, walked on our dust, and breathed our air to build a bridge over the chasm that separated us from God. He did not send us a map. He became the way. He did not give us a rule book. He gave us himself. The title Son of Man is God's signature on a contract of eternal love, a covenant sealed not with ink, but with the blood of the King himself, who became a servant for us. This is not a story about humanity in general. It is a love letter written specifically to you. The Son of Man knows your name. He has seen every tear you've shed in secret, heard every silent prayer of your heart, and felt the weight of every burden you carry. He became a man to understand your pain, and he died and rose again to be able to heal it. The invitation he extends to you today is not to join a religion, but to enter into a relationship with the King who knows you and loves you in a way that transcends your understanding. Faced with a sacrificial love of this magnitude, faced with the revelation that the Judge of the universe is also your Redeemer, there is only one logical and life-changing response: surrender and worship. We all spend our lives trying to build our own little kingdoms, seeking security in our own strength, defending our own thrones of sand. But the King of Heaven offers us something infinitely greater: citizenship in his eternal kingdom, a place in his family, and a purpose that death cannot destroy. The only thing he asks of us is that we hand over the keys of our heart to him. The final invitation is this, clear and direct. Are you ready to acknowledge Jesus, the Son of Man, not just as a fascinating historical figure, but as your personal Lord and the sovereign King of your life? Are you willing to stop fighting on your own and to trust the one who is the perfect bridge between heaven and your soul? The decision to crown him as King of your heart is not the end of your story. It is its true beginning, the moment your life finds its true north and its eternal purpose. He stands at the door and knocks. Surrendering to the Son of Man is not about reaching a standard of perfection to be accepted. It's the opposite. It is admitting our imperfection and accepting his perfection in our place. It is trading our weakness for his strength, our anxiety for his peace, our guilt for his forgiveness. It is the act of simply opening our hands and dropping the weapons of self-sufficiency, looking to the cross and whispering, "I need you. I believe in you. Be my King." In this simple act of faith, the power of the resurrection floods your life and makes you a new creation. This is a moment of decision, a turning point that can redefine your entire future. If you believe in your heart that Jesus is this eternal King who became man for you, that he died and rose again to give you life, we invite you to make a public declaration of faith right now. Write in the comments the words that seal this decision in your heart and proclaim it to the world. My King and my Redeemer. Let these words be your first act of worship, the anthem of your soul surrendered to its rightful and loving sovereign. Perhaps you are hearing all this and feeling a weight on your heart. Maybe the voice of doubt or shame is telling you that you've gone too far, that your mistakes are too great. Listen carefully. The Son of Man came precisely to seek and to save the lost. He specializes in broken hearts, in shattered lives, and in stories that seem to have no hope left. His humanity connects him to your pain, and his divinity gives him the power to transform it completely. There is no darkness so deep that his light cannot penetrate it. His grace is greater than your greatest sin. You stand at an eternal crossroads. One path is to continue trying to navigate life on your own, carrying the weight of your mistakes and the uncertainty of your destiny. The other is to hand over the helm of your life to the captain of your salvation, the Son of Man, who has promised to guide you safely to the harbor of his eternal kingdom. One path leads to a dead end. The other leads to life and life in abundance. The choice is yours, and all of heaven waits in silence for your answer. The invitation has been made in love, and the price has already been paid in full. Remember, the Son of Man who was crucified did not remain in the grave. He rose again, ascended into heaven, and is right now seated at the right hand of the Ancient of Days, ruling the universe and interceding for those who call upon him. The invitation you receive today comes not from a figure of the past, but from a living, present, and all-powerful King. He has the power to rewrite your story, to give you a new beginning, and to secure your eternity by his side. All he awaits is your yes. So that no one feels alone on this journey, we want to create a chain of worship and encouragement right here in the comments. If you have made the decision to accept Jesus as your King, after writing "My King and my Redeemer," also leave an amen. And then do something powerful. Pray for the person who commented right above you. Let's transform this digital space into an altar, a community of hearts surrendering together to the King of Kings and Lord of Lords. Let's unite in prayer and celebrate the new lives that are beginning at this very moment. Don't let this moment pass. The revelation of the Son of Man is not just to be understood, it is to be received. He is God's answer to the deepest hunger of your soul. He is the bridge over the abyss, the home you have always been returning to, even without knowing it. Embrace your King, surrender to your Redeemer, the one who became the Son of Man so that the sons and daughters of men could, through him, become sons and daughters of God, is standing with open arms, waiting for you. Come home.